So thank you, Guido, for the introduction. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm with the company almost 3 years now. Basically, I spent 6.5 years with Deutsche Telekom, so I do have a little bit of corporate IT background, and yeah, built up the team, as Guido said, of customer success over the last 3 years. What I'd like to share with you today is basically some best practices, what we see in our customer base happening. We've got 240 customers now who have started with LeanIX, and I can recognize by the green lanyards that most of you are customers in that room, which I like. So I hope I can give you some good inspiration on how to set up an application portfolio, actually what an application portfolio is. How do you, in a rationalization process, identify elimination candidates? And last but not least, how can you manage a process within LeanIX? So it's very tool-focused. Some of you might have been to the session of PwC yesterday, which was a lot about like the strategic motivation behind doing application rationalization. This one is really down to how do you make use of LeanIX in that process. So it's supposed to go one level deeper here. First of all, to set the scene here, why is application rationalization and proper management sorry, for your application landscape so important? And we did a LeanIX study. We asked companies how many applications they have in total and compared that to their size of the company. And what we see, and I think what's quite logical, the larger the company gets, the more applications they have. So how it reads is for companies who have more than 1 billion in revenue, 40% of them have 2,000 or more applications. And you probably saw from our award presentation yesterday, and Aldi shared some insights. Today in the presentation, Aldi with 2,000 applications, Bosch with 14,000 applications. So quite a number to manage. So if you look further, what does it mean if you don't manage that IT and complexity? What kind of impact does it have? So basically, it pays into an increased cost, increase in IT cost. It increases your compliance challenges and technology risks, and it slows down your process of digital transformation, as you can see here from that study. So I think the motivation is quite clear why we should do something like application rationalization and application portfolio management. And if you look one step further, we asked what is the main blocker for your digital transformation. And number one there is the legacy applications. I mean, probably all of you know that. I know from like a lot of our customers, there are these AS400s where some applications are still running on. There is this application which is built on COBOL, which is probably still the backbone behind your core systems. So these legacy applications are what's slowing down digital transformation and what makes application portfolio management so important. So to put it in a nutshell, what happens if you don't do it? You buy applications that solve urgent problems either in the business or in your IT. And you run and pay for multiple similar applications across regions within the same capability. You run applications that are unstable or no longer used because you don't track the number of users actually of an application. You don't get the feedback there. Or you have outdated applications that have never been uninstalled or updated, and it still runs on an Oracle database 11G, which has been phased out in 2014. So to sum it up, there might be also applications that are vulnerable to compliance and security breaches. I think it makes quite clear we need to have a good focus on the application landscape and make sure that we check it regularly and phase out or update the candidates that are not fitting to our strategy anymore. So what I'll do today is guide you basically through 4 steps to set up your application portfolio. And probably most of you know our data model. What I will most focus on is the fact sheet types, applications, and business capabilities. That's the very first step of getting your application portfolio right. Putting that in relation to user groups, but also having a clear differentiation to the IT components. I'll go a bit into that. So what's an application? Although that might sound like a very simple question, we find out when onboarding customers, that's the one that takes the longest discussion. And also about projects, because projects are a nice container to put your rationalization ideas together. So to say, hey, this is our consolidation program in CRM. This is the 5 applications that are affected by that project. So let's get a common view about that. So it starts with a capability model. It goes through a proper application definition. It goes through a collaborative approach towards gathering the data. We had, again, Aldi this morning saying about the EA as a mastermind. I believe in it, but I also don't believe in it, because if you think about those large organizations, you will figure out that no organization or no team can have the full knowledge about all applications that are run in a company. And last but not least, how can you manage that rationalization process, and how can you prove business value? So let's start with the first one. Some of you might know it. That's our best practice around business capabilities. And we came up with these best practices for a reason. We saw in the very beginning when I joined the company about 3 years ago that these were very long discussions, about weeks and months, to set up your business capability map. And from a tool vendor perspective, that's I wouldn't say that's a waste of time, but that's a process that we really want to accelerate, because that decreases your time to value if you don't have your business capability right. So we came up with this rather generic one, then came up with some specific ones for energy, manufacturing, and finance that we provide to our customers at the very beginning of onboarding, because if there's no business capability map present, then this is the 80% version that you should start with, and make it fit to the needs that you have. And rather focus on a quick result. So get started with your business capability map. And there are some good guidances to it. So you see here, there are 8 level 1 business capabilities as you have it. We saw customers with 50 with level 1 business capabilities. And I say, no, that's not the right approach. So keep it lean on the first level. Make sure that you don't overlap these business capabilities. And if we put it simple, if you think about our data model, the business capabilities are the what. They are not the how, because the how goes into the process, and the who goes into the user group or in the organization. That's how we differentiate on the business architecture side. And also make sure that they are designed to have some long-term stability. So they shouldn't change every month as a total. Spend some time at the beginning to get your 80–90% version clear. And I can only encourage to rely on best practices if you have nothing in place there. So I did some analysis on how it looks in our 240 customer user base, and I divided it between the versions that we have. The customers might be familiar. We have smart and advanced versions, so that goes up to 2,500 fact sheets. And what I see, the average total number of fact sheets there is 1,100. The average number of applications is 350, and business capabilities is 123. So the ratio between them is 2.8 to 1. So that's a quite granular level in terms of modeling it. Whereas for our larger customers in professional and ultimate editions, the average number of total fact sheets is more than 5,500, coming to 1,356 applications, 277 business capabilities, making up a ratio from almost 5 to 1. So you see the granularity of the business capabilities towards the application decreases here. And that's what we consider as a best practice. I remember some customer situations where we had a 1-to-1 ratio, and I said, no, that's not the right approach here. If you have 300 applications and 300 business capabilities, although you might have a best-of-breed strategy, that's definitely not the right approach to have your business capability map here. But just to give you some inspiration, the customers might find them, or you as customers might find yourself in one of the categories to see what should be the right ratio in putting up your business capability map. So once that's done, it comes to the question, what is an application? Let me ask the question, who believes that Microsoft Excel is an application? Well, it depends. It depends. But that's actually the most asked question that we get during this. So let me give you an answer in about 30 seconds, and first explain you how we define an application. So first of all, an application supports the business. It relies on IT components of software, hardware, and IT services. It manages and exchanges business data, and it's affected by projects. So what does it mean in the end? There's a business-first thought behind it. So the application list needs to be understandable by the business. So an application carries the name of how the business understands the application. Take the example of LeanIX. In which of your, I'm now targeting the customers, where is LeanIX called LeanIX in your organization? Yeah? And who has a different name for LeanIX internally? Yeah, okay, so we rather observe the way that's probably common in Europe. We are the EAM tool, and we get nice names for LeanIX, and we are always impressed by the creativity. So that's the name that you should put in as an application. I mean, if you call it LeanIX, then call it LeanIX. But if you have a different name for it, then give it that name. So coming to my favorite example of Microsoft Excel. So there, and I'm talking about previous experience, there were some Microsoft Excel, very sophisticated ones, that supported the harmonization of sales controlling and financial controlling. And this, so it served a business purpose, because if this Excel was not there, then this report could not be drawn. This harmonization could not happen, because there were some sophisticated macros running. If this guy was on vacation, it simply did not happen. If this guy was sick, it also did not happen. The funny thing is, this Excel tool obviously was not called Excel tool, but it carried the last name of the person who developed it. So you might all be familiar with these kind of stories. So what does it mean for our modeling? What does now stand in the application? The application, in that case, would be, it was called the Richter tool, but not invented by me. So that would be the actual application that you would put in. And it would rely on a software component, Microsoft Excel. Because the idea behind that is that you're able to answer a question like, where do I have critical business capabilities? You can tag them as critical or strategic or whatever, that are supported by an application that runs on Microsoft Excel. So this is the hop that you would want to do in having the application definition that clear. So Microsoft Excel, to answer the question that I asked, itself is not an application. It's an IT component. But what you make out of it, the same applies, by the way, for SharePoint. So SharePoint is a similar example. You can build great things on SharePoint. And some might be very unnecessary, but some might support the business. And if it supports the business, if it's used by a user group, or if it supports a process, then it's an application. If not, then not. So last point here about the hierarchies. Use hierarchies only when needed. I love to see the application fact sheet type being level 1 only. At a later point of time, imagine you have your corporate ERP with your SAP instances and modules. It makes sense to go down on the module level on level 2, or even if you're very sophisticated in that, level 3. But you should like save your this kind of modeling for these modules only. Because you would probably want to say or make the differentiation that your SAP materials management is supporting these business capabilities, and that FICO is supporting some finance controlling business capabilities. And you just don't want to say corporate ERP is supporting all business capabilities. So you would want to make the allocation of the business capabilities to the application on this lower level there. So when it comes to like setting up your portfolio, it basically starts with assigning some basic information. So don't go for it all, but go for obviously name and description. Description, very important. If you do the capability mapping later on, you might have figured out that we brought in some like automation and automated recommendations into it when you have description on both ends to make it much easier to relate business capabilities and applications once they have the descriptions set. So set the lifecycle that enables you to do all the road mapping and also make sure to see which applications are we actually only phasing in or which are applications that we've already phased out. Link them to the business capability, add some specific information in tags. So you know we are having a best practice data model, but some of the information is very specific to your company, which then goes into a tag. And point E, very important, assign the responsibilities as soon as possible. As soon as you can, basically, because this is the enabler for everything that goes into collaborative data maintenance. So you want to reach out with surveys, you need to have the responsibility set. You want to manage your data quality over the quality seal, you need to have your responsibility set. And make it very specific. So assign application owner roles, assign business owner roles, because if it's just a general responsibility, it will make it harder to find the right people who should fill out a certain information. So for the IT components themselves, it's not the first step that you do in an application portfolio management approach, but it's important to have the right definition here and not to build in any blockers in the very beginning. So the IT components are there to manage your technology risks and see what's obsolete, what is the impact if Microsoft phases out the support for a certain version of Microsoft Windows Server. IT components obviously are provided by providers, and we use tech stack as a taxonomy to like put more meaning to it than just hardware, software, or service. And you will see, or you probably all know, that when it comes to costs, the IT components, or this information is carried on the link between the IT components and the applications. So that's where the run costs come into place. So first of all, it's all about use case. The main use case that we see here is the technology risk management use case. So you would want to have your life cycles filled for the IT components. Then, having said that the question around Microsoft Excel is the most common question, the second most common is, do I put instances in LeanIX and servers and whatever, or do I leave them out? And I can only strongly encourage to not turn it into a CMDB, but to stay on the level of product models, so on this abstraction. Not to put in 20 instances of the same server, but just say this is the server that it's running on. And I mean, also servers have life cycles because you want to like reorder some storage for it or some RAM for it, and it might not even be available anymore. And this is the type of information that you would want to put in there. So not the instances, not for databases, not for servers. Between the IT components, use the relations with care. They are parent-child. Also, I would not recommend to go into parent-child for IT components. And required by, as a second relationship type, is helpful, especially in terms for the technology risk view. So don't want to go too much into detail about that, but imagine that a certain server type requires a certain operating system. So you don't have the direct link to the application, but our technology risk view goes from the application, then through the direct link to the server type, down to the operating system, and shows the technology risk at application level. So that's what you would want to find out. That's where it makes sense to put in the required by. Otherwise, build the direct links between the IT component and the application. And build blueprints there. That's where you can use the tech stack for. Yeah.
Last question, please.
I would say let's save the questions for the end, but so I will give one example for an on-premise, and then for infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service. So that's a sample on-premise application, and you can see it's connected to a lot of IT components. So some might come from the internal IT, like the application development and the running version itself that's provided by the internal IT. You might have a database component, application operation by an external provider, an operating system, a hardware type. So that's the recommended way of bringing in your on-premise application. That should answer probably the third most common question: why is there no link between the application and the provider? Because it's hard to say who's the provider of that application. Is it the internal IT, or is it perhaps Red Hat, IBM? Probably not. Is it, for example, the external operation service provider? So there could be multiple providers. And we are taking that approach to modeling because what you will want to find out in the end is, show me a list of all applications that run on IT components that are provided by the internal IT. So of course, this application has other providers as well. But if you want to talk to your internal IT, then you want to be able to pull that list. Or you want to get rid of Red Hat as a supplier. Could be then, show me all applications that run on IT components by the provider Red Hat. So this is how you build up the data model in order to be able to answer those kind of questions. So let's switch a bit into the modern world of software as a service. And I gave the example from the very beginning here. So LeanIX, EAM, or however it's called in your organization, is connected to an IT component. It's connected to LeanIX as in GmbH. So it's not the right level of detail that you know that we are running on a Postgres, that we are using a RungoDB for our graph database, that we're using Java in the back end, JavaScript in the front end. That's all part of our own architecture, where you say as our customers, that's in that case not relevant. We take care of that, we manage that. For you, it's simply software as a service by LeanIX, from LeanIX. So platform as a service. Also an example, a very practical example. You might want to know which applications are we running on force.com. I mean, obviously, Salesforce CRM in your environment carries a Salesforce CRM SaaS component to it, which comes from Salesforce. But it also is run on the force.com platform. Then we have a second tool, and that's a real-life LeanIX example, Gainsight, that carries its own SaaS component, is provided by Gainsight, but runs on force.com. So this helps us to understand if we want to get rid of it or if there's a major impact on force.com so that it doesn't run anymore or it has a scheduled downtime or whatever we need to know. If we just did like this approach, the simple approach, gain side, gain side, gain side, then we would not figure out that if force.com was impacted, then that gain side is impacted as well. So this is why we strongly recommend going for that approach. So last one, infrastructure as a service. So basically the lift and shift of the what you've seen on the last slide is carries components of AWS for the infrastructure, still carries on the internal IT with its development service based on AWS, and might carry in Postgres or at a later point of time, if we exchange the database against an AWS version, then this might move to the top. So some food for thought in reflecting how we recommend to model these things. So once that's set, we have basically our application portfolio. And now starts the question, what do we do with it? We strongly believe in standardized frameworks in order to evaluate that. So you know our technical fit, our functional fit, and we see that the portfolio overview of the portfolio overview is a strong indicator how to manage your application portfolio. If you take Gartner's time model, so about tolerate, invest, migrate, and eliminate, we believe that this is a pragmatic and a good way to identify the candidates where you would want to invest or which you probably want to eliminate. So make use of the standard attributes that we deliver within the application fact sheet and say, do we have a good technical fit? Do we have an excellent functional fit? Yeah, that's probably something where we should invest. So far, so good. The main question is, how can we reach out to our audience? And I want to bring in the survey as a functionality here, which is pretty easy to bring in. So you do a survey to your community and say you want to do it for the applications. You say, please rate your application. Simply choose the business criticality and the technical fit. And coming back to the mastermind, we need the people to answer that. And then basically say, I'm doing it for my applications, for the role of the application owner. And select this one. So now, in the next step, we would see, OK, this then goes out. If I have 300 applications and 100 application owners, or 50, or how much ever, this would go out to this number of people. So what's good in that? It's easy to implement. We get collaborative input, so you don't need to be the mastermind of all your applications. And I'm pretty sure nobody at Bosch would know how the technical fit of all the 14,000 applications would look like. So you need to have the intelligence and the knowledge of all your people. It's limited overhead for the EA, because EA, in that sense, serves as an enabler, and regular runs are possible. Because it's nice to have that in a first step, this evaluation, but you need to repeat it. Doesn't help if you just do that once now. You probably want to repeat it in 3 months, 6 months, at the latest in 1 year. Because there might be new technologies coming up. There might be better alternatives for your on-premise applications in the SaaS world coming up. So you would want to evaluate and more business requirements coming up. So there is definitely a fluctuation in it. So to come up with some limitations, and I showed you the way how to do it with the existing model is, yeah, we have a limited granularity because we abstract from the complexity of technical fit and functional fit. I can say, but there are ways how we can be more granular in that. Nevertheless, I would encourage you to start with that. There's still some, or might be some, no, there is some transfer in the time model necessary, because currently you only know functional fit and technical fit, but I will come up with a solution in a second. And you need a high quality data quality for the responsibilities. So that's really the starting point, making clear who's the application owner, or however you call that role, application manager. I think I've heard 3, 4 different terms for that, but I'm sure you know what I mean, the person who's able to do a good judgment on those applications and really assign them as responsibles. So how does it look like for the user? Because currently we only had the EA view of that. It's really simple in that way. I mean, imagine you reach out to 100 people, and some of them might have not have used LeanIX as like very proficient users, but basically for a user who receives that, it looks very simple. You just get like the 3 attributes that you need to fill. So you don't have to care about name, description, link to business capabilities, whatever. It's really down to the essence of what needs to be filled out by that single person to also reduce overhead and increase acceptance for the participants and to really increase user engagement here. So coming back here, we have our functional fit and we have our technical fit. What does it mean? So we need to assign the tags to the application fact sheets according to the time model. That means you need to like pick out these, select these, and give them an invest tag. You need to do this and give them, or select these and give them a migrate tag. So basically that's easy. In about a minute, I will show you some, or give you some hint about automating this. The important thing here, and this cannot be automated, is what do you do with this evaluation now? So you've got the tolerate ones. You can now say, okay, tolerate means functional fit is not the right one. So do we need to have functional enhancements? So we need to set up projects. Can we look for existing applications or even platform solutions which might cover the business need? So that at a certain point of time in the future, they might not be tolerate anymore, but we can bring them to the eliminate state. For the investment, yeah, we are saying we want to invest there. So what does it mean? So we need to build projects around these and say, what do we actually want to do? Do we want to roll them out? Do we want to get more functionality here? Do we want to use them for other business capabilities as well? And that doesn't happen overnight, so you need to set up projects so that you're able to track that. And I mean by set up projects, create a project fact sheet, link the applications to it, and give it a meaning, and give it a timeline. And establish those applications as successor of migrations or elimination candidates. So if you know that's your preferred set of applications that you would want to keep for the future, these are probably the ones that are the successor of some that we migrate or eliminate. So for the migrate ones, we definitely need a phase-out date, because, and that, as I said, cannot be automated. You need to decide, when does the phase-out start? Does it start now? Can we start later with it? Do you already have a successor in mind? Do you have a migration project that you can already set up or foresee? For the eliminate candidate, it's about directly saying, okay, we want to get rid of it, so phase-out starts now. And the end of life should be in there. So in order to evaluate our future roadmap in a year or in 2, I don't want to see these eliminate candidates anymore. So they should have successors, and we need to have a project running for that. Because it can be very small. If it's a SaaS application, then yeah, you need to make sure that the vendor agreement is canceled. But it can also be anyway, you would probably need to have some data migration. So these kind of things need to be taken care of. So to give you some hint about automation in that, we created in Azure Function, and I'm happy to go into more details there. So to say, we don't want to have this as a manual process. We put that in a script, can apply to an Azure Function here, and basically see that this eliminate tag gets assigned automatically. So again, the functional fit is here set to perfect. The technical fit is set. And we see that this then even changes. So what it does, it always, in a fact sheet update, takes the current values of your functional fit and of your technical fit and auto-assigns it to the, auto-assigns the tag. So that the process that I described before, you have to like select your group and give the tag to it, can be automated. Again, less work for the A team. And you have a reliable information based on like the information on your fact sheet. So it's a downloadable script on our LeanIX public GitHub. It's Python-based. We have a description on how to deploy it to Azure. I mean, you can also, of course, deploy it to AWS. And we're happy to help there to set that up. So then next step is, what is the business impact? Now I've done all this. I've got all my applications evaluated. I can look at it in the application landscape. I see all my business capabilities and how they are impacted by my evaluations. I can see it across the whole user groups and business capabilities to see, okay, who do I need to inform, with whom do I need to initiate projects. I can get a specific view of just the HR and say, okay, there are within HR we have 2 elimination candidates, so that's the first project that I would probably want to set up. So one last point here to mention, and that was is a question around impact analysis. Now I've set it up, I've done the evaluation, and now I see what kind of impact does it actually have on the architecture that I'm having. So I can look at the data flows now in my organization, and I would see here that 4 of them are now elimination candidates. So this is something before I eliminate then I should be aware of. And again, being in the position to say, okay, we probably in that in this data flow from like service engage to OMS, there's a CRM system in the middle. There is no other data flow that's covering that at the moment. So this is something where we probably, before we do the phase out, need to take action in order to have the data finally in the OMS. So that was about the impact more on a qualitative side, on how to make sure that data that we still have reliable data when candidates are eliminated. Now is the question, what does it give us in more tangible value? And I think it was in yesterday's presentation, Nancy, that you managed the burn down report as one of the the favorite ones. You can immediately see at which point of time are you reducing which number of applications. So this is here. I see, okay, now we are reducing this number, then obviously we have a time of no reductions. We see our overall line here of applications in production so that we can have a consolidated view on how does our application portfolio evolve over time based on the planning that we've currently made. And we might realize at this point of time that we are not ambitious enough to reach our goals for end of 2020 because we want to reduce 10% of the applications. But so far planned, we can only reduce them in 2021. So it's not hitting our goals here. Last visualization is that you would want to compare not only the number of applications that you have, but also the costs that are behind them. So you might have one application cost for your headquarter for 2019, which might look like that. And based on the phase-outs and the eliminations that you've planned, these might go down. So you see that customer relationship management this year causes some total run cost of 1.6 million, whereas next year we are reducing it to 850,000. So this is all based on life cycles that you are saying, okay, probably one very expensive customer relationship management software we are getting rid of, and it's not in our portfolio of 2020 anymore. And this is how you can compare the times and really demonstrate, okay, we are saving 800,000 in CRM. And also in HR, basically, our spend remains constant from 940 to 940. So that brings me to my summary. Strongly believe that application rationalization is very important and can bring you a tangible business value. I also believe that the ACE, and that's what I get from all the conversations, not only today, but also over the last couple of years, are really in the driver's seat and are asked by their CIOs, CFOs, sometimes CEOs, how can we make that possible? And I think it's in the responsibility to show the potential without negatively impacting the business. Because that's not the question that the CIO or CFO will ask in the very first instance, but rather say, where can we reduce? And then making sure it doesn't negatively impact. And we also believe in a collaborative and data-driven approach to evaluate that. So again, not the mastermind, the EA is a mastermind, but taking in your broader audience of domain architects, but also of business users to give you that kind of data and to manage that portfolio. Okay, thank you very much.